Hi everyone, it's Kit here from the Kit Does Yoga YouTube channel. Now, one of the main questions I get is how to deal with wrist pain. So a lot of times when you get back into yoga or do a lot more yoga than you used to, your wrists start to hurt a little more, especially in this inside part right on your forearms. Now this can be for a variety of reasons. Sometimes you just haven't warmed up enough, you haven't stretched your wrists out, and other times it's just strength, so you need to strengthen through your wrists and learn how to put some more weight on it safely. During this class, we'll also build weight gradually into our hands, so starting with very little weight in tabletop and moving all the way up into handstands, where all of our weight's in our hands. Yes, you heard me right, handstands. Now you don't have to do the handstands, but it's really fun and a really good way to get all your weight on your wrists and really strengthen them up. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're actually going to start off this class in a seated position. So just find a comfortable seat sitting on your glutes, and that'll allow us to do some wrist stretches without putting any weight into our wrists just yet. So go ahead and find that comfortable seat. We'll start by tuning in like we do with our classes. Maybe close your eyes, sit up tall, and just notice your breathing. Start to tune into your body and how it feels. Now this is especially important when you have an injury or you're coming back from an injury. It's just really tuning in to see what's good for your body. Everyone is different. Everyone's injuries are different. Everyone's little aches and pains are different. But it's up to us to really feel those and know how our body is doing, not pushing it past what it's ready to do, but also giving ourselves those little challenges to start improving and getting better. So that's important in yoga as well as any facet of injury recovery. So you're already doing the first step. You're already starting to tune into your body, checking in with yourself, seeing how it feels. Maybe you focus on your wrists today. Just see how they're feeling right now. Are they already a little sore? Or do they feel good right now and they're ready for those extra challenges? Take 3 breaths here, just tuning into the body and getting familiar with yourself and ready for the practice. And then if you haven't already, flutter your eyes open, lift up your hands and start to take some circles with your wrists. So bringing some circles into your wrists, just bringing some blood there, some movement, maybe even get the fingers wiggling a little bit, and then circle them the other way. And then we're going to warm up all the individual muscles in your wrists. So if you didn't know, the muscles from your fingers go all the way down through your wrists. So we're going to go ahead and warm those up. So what I want you to do is to take the fingerprint of your forefinger and your fingerprint of your thumb, put them together and then squeeze tight. So go ahead and squeeze them together and then release. And then we're going to do this with the middle finger, squeeze it to the thumb, the ring finger, and then the pinky finger. We're going to do this 2 more times, so moving through your hand. Try and move slow as you open and close, pressing your fingers together, and see if you can feel this all the way into the forearm. Like I mentioned, those muscles extend all the way through your wrist into your forearm. So see if you can notice that as you start to tune in to your hands and wrists and forearms a little bit more. And then our next stretch is going to be to send our right palm out in front of us. Take your left fingers and go ahead and pull back on your right fingertips. So pulling back, getting a nice stretch through the forearm here, the bottom of your forearm. and then go ahead and switch it the other way. So my palm's actually going to face towards me, my fingertips are going to go down, and same thing, I'm going to take my left hand and just pull back on it a little bit. I'm not yanking back. Again, I'm being very mindful. I'm not doing anything my body doesn't want to do, but just stretching out here. Enough that I feel the stretch, but not enough that I feel pain or pinching. And then go ahead, we'll do this on the other side. Left hand goes forward, right hand goes ahead and pulls back on the fingertips. So keeping your elbows straight here, as straight as you can, pressing it out to get that full stretch throughout your forearm. And then we'll take it the other way. So point your fingers down and go ahead and pull back here. I like to pull back on the back of my hand here. I feel like when I pull my fingers, they're already bent, so it doesn't work as well. So I'm pulling back on the back of my palm. And then go ahead and release it. Take a few more shakes, wiggles with the hands. And then go ahead and come forward. We're going to come into a tabletop pose. So this is where we start putting some weight into our hands. So still building on strength. You can always come back to a tabletop here. But I'm bringing my wrists directly under my shoulders, my hips over my knees, and squaring them off. So starting to put weight into my hands here. This is a really good way to practice if your wrists really hurt during down dog or plank. Start building strength here. And then what we're going to do is a few more stretches. So start to rock back and forth. So stretching out the wrists again. So I'm stretching out through my forearm here. This nice white fleshy part on the bottom of my forearm. And then we're going to take our fingertips out to the side. So your right fingertips out to the right, left fingertips out to the left. And this time we're going to rock side to side, right to left. So just playing with it differently, seeing how it feels. And then we're going to point our fingertips, continue back until they point towards you. So I actually like to come off my wrists a little bit as I set this up. And then rock forward, putting a little bit more weight into the fingertips. And then rock back, stretching them out. So nice gentle rocks here, not rushing. Again, listening to your body, seeing how it feels. And then last one we're going to do, spin your fingertips forward again, and then we're just going to do some circles. So my upper body is just making circles around my wrists as my hands are planted into the ground. And then go ahead and circle the other way if you haven't already started. So circling both directions. And then from here, we're going to add a little bit more weight to the wrist. So we're going to come into a supported side plank. So keep your right hand on the ground, your right leg on the ground. Your left foot's going to go back towards the back of the mat. Actually, I'm going to scoot up a little bit. And then you're actually going to spin your left foot down onto the big toe side. And your left arm is going to reach up as your body opens up into supported side plank here. So like I mentioned, my right side's on the ground. I'm pressing into my hand, I'm pressing into my knee. And then my left side is lifting. Try and use your core here, your left side core, to help lift you up. And then if you're ready for a challenge, you want a little bit more, you can actually lift your foot up to the same height as your hip. So I'm pressing through my left foot here. Breathing. Pressing back through my left foot and forward out the crown of my head. So it's one long line here, whether you have your foot lifted or it's back on the ground. Getting a little bit of balance in here. Take another breath in, reach up, and then exhale, bring your hands back down to the mat and take 3 cat-cows here. So we're going to inhale, cow pose, drop your belly, look forward. Exhale, cat pose, round your back, Halloween cat. Inhale back into cow. Exhale to cat. Working with your inhales and exhales, we'll do one more round. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale, cat pose. And then coming back to neutral, so flattening out your back and tabletop. And I'm going to go ahead and spin around so I can show you the other side. But for a supported side plank on this side, we're going to keep our left hand down, left leg down, and point our right toes. And then for this side, we're going to go ahead and take supported side plank again. This time my left hand and my left leg stay down. My right foot goes towards the back of the mat, and then I open up with my right side here, reaching up through my right arm. As I open up, finding my body a little bit more flat, I guess, in space instead of side to side. I'm reaching up with my right arm as I press down through my left hand. And then if you want the challenge on this side, start to lift your right foot up in line with your right hip. So not going up higher, that doesn't make it harder. We want instead to be right in line with the hip so that we can press back through it. Breathing here. And then what I want you to think about here is lifting up and out. So pressing down into the mat with your left hand and lifting up with your left shoulder. So this is what causes a lot of wrist pain. A lot of times we just dump our weight down into our wrists, and our wrists bear the weight there because they're right against the ground. Instead, engage your muscles, really press the mat away, lift your shoulder up, engage through the core, and use your entire body to help hold you up other than just your wrist bones bearing the brunt of the weight. Take one more inhale here, reach up again, and then come back down to the ground. Find tabletop and take 3 more cat-cows here. So again, starting with the inhale, cow pose, drop your belly. Exhale, round your spine, cat pose. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. And I'll let you take the last round on your own. And then from here we're going to move into plank pose, which is one of the poses that people do have a lot of grief about, especially if they have wrist pain. But we're actually going to start here by practicing that same move I talked about before, which is really lifting your body weight up using your entire body and not just collapsing down into your wrists. So to start, take your fingertips wide. So really reach out through your thumbs like they want to touch, and reach your pinkies out to the side like they want to be as far away from each other as possible. So that'll create a nice wide base. You might even want to press through the fingertips here. So pressing down through my fingertips, it's almost like I'm clawing at the mat like an animal, clawing down onto it. And that's good too. That helps you keep a nice grip on the mat and engages your muscles. And then puff up. So we're going to build this up. So pressing through my fingertips, lifting up through my shoulders, and puffing up between my shoulder blades. So that space right between your shoulder blade and your spine, I want to puff up there, or at the very least picture myself puffing up there. You might not have a noticeable difference, but if you press into the mat, press through your fingertips, lift up through your shoulders, you'll feel it. And then from here we're going to find plank pose. So step your feet back, finding plank pose. Always an option to take this on your knees, but I'm going to show you a full plank here, lifting through my upper back, and then I'm going to lower down to the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice job. And then from here, go ahead, press yourself back. Find downward facing dog. Same thing, set your hands up here so that they're nice and wide base. Spread your fingers wide. And then really press back through them for downward facing dog. This is another pose that could be hard on your wrist. If you do it a lot, if you have a lot of pain, this might be kind of rough. But again, think about reaching up and out. Press down through your fingertips, claw the mat, and really press the mat away from you. This time you're actually going to pull your shoulder blades together. And then your tail, to help with this, your tailbone is going to think about reaching up and back behind you as well. So pressing the mat away, extending all the way through your tailbone, getting a nice long spine. On your next inhale, take your right leg up into the sky, three-legged dog. And then exhale, bring your right foot forward between your hands, setting up for a low lunge here. We're gonna keep our back knee, our left knee lifted. And then I'm gonna plant my left wrist and reach up with my right for a twisted lunge here. So a lot of this weight's actually in our feet, so I'm pressing down through my right leg for some stability here, and then stretching out through my back left leg. I do have my left hand on the ground, supporting a little bit of weight, but we're gonna go ahead and bring a little bit more weight into it. As we start to walk our right foot out, and then send it back behind us for a side plank. So we did supported side plank. Always an option to drop your left knee and come back to supported side plank, or send both your feet to the back of the mat and hold here for 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and lower your right hand to the mat and lower yourself down. From here, take a cobra pose. Pull your shoulder blades together, lift your chest up, cobra, and then find downward facing dog for the other side. I'm gonna go ahead and switch to the other side so I can keep watching you as well. Or rather, you can keep watching me. Oh, that sounds weird. I didn't mean for it to sound weird. But getting back to it, come back to your down dog here, remembering to press out of your wrists. And remembering this throughout the entire practice. So a lot of times we get tired, we tend to just kind of collapse into our wrists. If you feel that happening, if you feel really tired, always come back to this tabletop pose. That's always an option. Wherever you can stay strong through your wrists and lifted, it's the pose you need to do, not just down dog because I said down dog, especially if you're gonna collapse into your wrists. Maybe next time you come back to this video, you'll be able to hold all the down dogs. So, finding what works for your body today. And then on your next inhale, take your left leg up, three-legged dog, and bring your left foot forward this time for a low lunge on this side. Keeping my right knee lifted, I'm planting my right hand and then lifting my left arm up for a twisted lunge on this side. Breathing here, getting a nice twist into our practice as well. Putting weight into the right hand, but also practicing lifting up and out of it. Now this is a challenge. A lot of your weight's in your right wrist as we begin to move into plank. So go ahead, start to move here. Take your left foot out and then walk it back, finding side plank. Always an option for supported side plank here, but lifting up and out of your wrists. Use your core here. Press your hips up towards the sky and hold for 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and bring your left hand down to the mat, plank pose, and lower down to the mat. Inhale, cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. Nice job here. Take 2 breaths here. And then from here, walk your feet up to your hands, finding a ragdoll. Take your feet wide and give your wrists a nice little break. Just sway side to side. Maybe you grab opposite elbows. But we're just going to take our wrists. But we're just going to take our weight off our wrists here for a second. Before we move on to the next part of the class. And then when you're ready, go ahead and take one more breath here. Exhale, release your hands, walk your feet back into hips width distance, and then slowly rise up to standing. Mountain pose, send your palms forward, and take a breath here, feeling nice and strong. And then from here, take your hands to your hips. And we're going to take pyramid pose. So from here, my right toes are going to face forward. I'm going to step back about halfway down my mat with my left foot, and my left toes are pointing out about 45 degrees. So we're not quite as far as a warrior 2 or a warrior 1, but just finding where you can set your toes back. You can always adjust them once we get into the pose. And then I'm going to take my hands to my hips and square them towards the front of my mat. So this is really important here. So keeping your hips square, they want to open up to the side, but we want them square towards the front. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and bend at my hips so my chest is coming forward, sinking down. When you start to feel that stretch is when your hips want to open, but instead pull your right hip back. Use your right hand to feel if it's opening up or if you're still pulling back. And you'll know too because you start to feel that stretch in your right hip. And then play around with this too. Play around with the placing of your feet back and forth, right to left, until you feel that stretch in your outer right hip. And then option, if you want, you can keep your hands at your hips, or go ahead, grab your shin, grab your ankle, or bring them all the way to the floor. So I'm on my fingertips here. This is another way to build strength, is to use your fingertips. So coming onto your fingertips, and I'm pressing my fingertips down, lifting up, tenting my hands. Take 2 breaths here. And then from here, I'm going to bend my right knee and then walk my hands a little bit more forward, coming into a standing L pose. So I'm going to shift my weight forward so I can bring my hands all the way to the ground, or if you have blocks and you want to put your hands on blocks, you can do that as well. But this is going to be a one-legged balance pose. So before we put our weight in our hands through planks and down dogs, but we usually had 1 foot or 2 foot on the ground. We're going to do 1 foot on the ground this time. So like I mentioned, bringing my hands forward onto the mat, my weight's in my right foot, and then I'm going to lift my left foot up towards the back of the mat and press it back towards the wall behind me like I wanted to stand on it. Now some people call this pose standing splits, but I don't like to call it that because then you try and get into the splits pose from here. Instead, I want you to find power here, standing L pose, pressing your heel back towards the mat or the wall behind you. And then if you want, you can let your head hang loose here as well. If you let your head hang loose, you might feel a little bit more weight go into your hands, which might feel good depending on how well we've worked the wrist here today. And then stay here, or if you want the ultimate challenge here, now's your time for some handstand hops. So from here, you're gonna kick your left foot up and come into your hands. Woo! So again, maybe you just have little hops here, starting to feel comfortable with putting all your weight onto your hands. So like I mentioned, we were gonna build here. We started in tabletop with a little bit of weight in our hands. And now we're moving on to handstand, where we have all our weight in our hands. Always an option too to go by a wall and then kick up onto the wall. So I'm going to show you that real quick since I have a nice handy dandy wall right here. But same thing, I got my wrists on the ground, my hands firmly planted, and I'm going to take my left foot and just kick all the way up onto the wall. This is a fun exercise too, to put all your weight into your wrists. And then when you're done here, done playing with your handstand kicks, we're gonna meet in a child's pose. So this is a good way to relax, catch your breath. Handstands can be exciting. We're just gonna relax again. So go ahead and find a child's pose for about 5 breaths here. So child's pose is a nice way to relax after any difficult inversions. It allows you to come back to your breath, take the weight out of your wrists and just relax for a moment or two. Go ahead and center yourself. We're going to go ahead and do the other side in just a moment. And then when you're ready, go ahead and find downward facing dog. And then walk your feet up to your hands, finding a forward fold. And on your next inhale, slowly rising back up to mountain pose as we prepare for pyramid on the other side. So this time we're going to keep our left foot forward, stretching out the left hip, and take our right foot back. So bring your right foot towards the back of the mat, spin your toes out about 45 degrees. And now that we've done one pyramid pose, you might be a little bit more familiar with how your body likes to place your feet for this, so you can always adjust here. But then again, different sides might react differently, so there's always time to adjust when you're in the pose. My hands are already at my hips, so I'm going to go ahead and square my hips towards the front of my mat. And then once I feel they're square enough, I'm going to start to bend at the hips, finding this pyramid pose, sinking down. I'm still lengthening my spine here as well, so I'm not rounding, dipping. I'm lengthening my spine as I sink lower, like I mentioned, bending from the hips. And then I'm going to go ahead and come to my fingertips here. That might feel good. Finding pyramid pose on my left side, stretching out my outer left hip, my left IT band here. I'm practicing putting weight into my fingertips. I find I get a really nice stretch here when I do press away. So when I do press away from the mat and actually press back into my hips, that feels really good. And then we're going to start to transition this into standing L pose. So slightly bending my left knee, shifting forward so I can place my hands on the ground, and lifting my right foot up and back. So pressing my right foot now towards the back of the mat. Oh, I said that again. I said that last time. Pressing my right foot back against the wall behind me, the back of the room, to bring some activation into my right leg, into my right glute. And you want to notice too here, so keeping your hips even with the ground. So just like pyramid pose, we're not opening up like half moon. We're keeping our hips the same height from the ground, both left and right. And then you have the option to stay here, or if you want, try some handstand kicks on this side. It might feel different with your other foot up in the air. I know we tend to kind of favor one side or the other. If you can't tell, I like to kick up with my other leg. So it's kind of a nice brain workout to try both legs so that you're more even. So doing some handstand kicks on this side. Always an option to stay here in your standing L pose as well. So that's another option. But maybe you try a few handstand kicks. Maybe you get up, maybe you hold it. Maybe you don't, maybe you just have some fun with it. Woo! And then when you're ready, go ahead and find one last child's pose here. So sinking down, relaxing your breath one last time. And then you can stay here in this child's pose for the remainder of the class, just enjoying these last few breaths, soaking in all the practice. Maybe you had some fun with the handstands, maybe you learned a few new wrist stretches, but just soaking in these last few moments. Check in with your wrists again, see how they're feeling. And then hanging out here in child's pose for the last few moments of the class. Go ahead and take your Shavasana here, or flip around to your back if you want to take a traditional Shavasana. And then you can hang out here in this child's pose for as long as you want. Thank you all so much for joining me for this yoga class to help with wrist pain. I hope you learned some fun stretches you can do before your yoga class and different ways that you can strengthen and hold yourself in some of those wrist strengthening poses like plank and down dog. If you have any other body part that gives you trouble after yoga class or anywhere you feel pain after yoga, please make sure to comment that and I'll see if I can make a video for that as well to help you out. While you're there, please subscribe to my yoga channel for more classes. Again, thank you all for watching this video. I hope it helped you as much as it did help me. Namaste.